All right, today we're going to take a journey to the very edges of the Indian Peninsula. We're going to explore a tale of two coastlines. I mean, they're born from the same landmass, but you'll see they're a world apart. So, if you look at India's Great Peninsular Plateau, you'll see it's basically hugged on both sides by these narrow coastal strips. You've got the Arabian Sea to the west and the Bay of Bengal over to the east. Now, at first glance, you might think they're just mirror images of each other. But as we're about to find out, they couldn't be more different. And that really gets us to the big question, doesn't it? How can two coastlines, part of the exact same peninsula, be so different? Well, the answer lies in these incredibly powerful geological forces that have been sculpting this land for millions and millions of years. Okay, let's kick off our investigation on the western edge. To really get a handle on this coast, you have to understand its most massive defining feature, the Western Ghats. You can think of them like this great big stone wall running right alongside the sea. And the immediate result of this wall? Well, it means the western coastal plain is incredibly narrow. It's pretty much just a thin ribbon of land, completely sandwiched between those towering Ghats on one side and the deep Arabian Sea on the other. And when I say towering, I really mean it. The Western Ghats are a continuous mountain range, and they have an average elevation of somewhere between 900 and 1,600 meters. So we're not talking about a bunch of gentle hills here. This is a serious barrier that basically dictates everything about the coast. You know, what's so cool is how this all connects. Picture this. Moist winds sweep in from the sea, and they slam right into this giant wall of mountains. They have nowhere to go but up. As they rise, they cool down and just dump enormous amounts of rain. That's what we call orographic rainfall. And because the mountains are so close to the sea, the rivers that form are short and super fast. They just race down these steep slopes, carving out deep valleys, but not really having the time to drop off sediment and build out the land. And the result of all that? A rugged, narrow coastline. So this narrow strip is usually broken down into three different sections. Up north, you've got the Konkan coast, which is where you'll find Mumbai and Goa. The central part is known as the Kanad Plain, and then down south, you have the really lush, rainy, and famous Malabar coast. All right, now let's hop over to the east, where a completely different picture unfolds. If the west coast was defined by a wall, then the east is like this vast, flat canvas, basically painted into existence by some of India's mightiest rivers. The very first thing you'll notice is just the difference in scale. The plains along the Bay of Bengal are wide and they're level. You don't get that feeling of being sandwiched at all. Here, the land just stretches out, open and expansive. And here's why that is. The mountains on this side, the Eastern Ghats, are further inland, they're not as high, and they're broken up. This lets the rivers take a long, slow journey to the sea. As they get closer to the coast, their speed drops, and they start to unload all the sediment and silt they've been carrying for hundreds of miles. The river literally clogs its own path, splits into all these smaller channels, we call them distributaries, and builds out a massive, fan-shaped and incredibly fertile delta. So, who are the master architects of this amazing landscape? Well, they're the greats, the Mahanadi, the Godavari, the Krishna, and the Kaveri. These rivers have spent thousands of years dumping rich soil onto the coast, creating one of the most productive farming regions on the entire planet. A perfect example of this land-shaping power is Chilika Lake. It's the largest saltwater lake in India, just a stunning lagoon that really stands as a monument to all these powerful coastal processes at play. It was formed right there at the edge of the Mahanadi River's delta. Okay, so we've looked at both sides of the story. Now let's put them head-to-head for the final comparison. This is really where it all comes together. So let's just lay out the big contrasts. Over in the west, a narrow plain hemmed in by those continuous, close-by Western Ghats. That setup gives you short, fast rivers and a rugged coast. Then in the east, the plains are wide and level, the mountains are broken up and farther inland. This allows for long, slow rivers that build those massive, fertile deltas. Even the climate is totally different, with the west getting that intense, mountain-driven rain. It's a really clear chain of geographical cause and effect. And here's the real takeaway. This geology directly shapes human life. The steep, rugged west, with all its natural deepwater harbors, it became a hub for ports, for fishing, and for trading high-value crops like spices. Meanwhile, the wide, flat, and fertile east, It became India's rice bowl, a land of huge-scale agriculture, all built on the gifts of its slow-moving rivers. Two coasts, two completely different economies, all shaped by the land itself.
And that leaves us with one final, bigger question to chew on. This isn't just about geography, right? It's about destiny. How have these ancient differences in rock and water, in mountains and rivers, gone on to shape the entire vast tapestry of India's trade, its cultures, and its history all the way up to today? It's definitely something to think about.